Welcome to week 5 of Upon Further Review, our weekly Butler County High School football show. We are sponsored weekly by Troy Allen Chevrolet, Buick GMC, along with Conlon, Tarker, and the Butler Health System. My name is John Enrietto. I'm the sports editor of the Butler Eagle. I'm joined, as always, every week by Mike Kilroy at the bottom of the screen here. And this week's host, well, I will turn it over to Derek Pida, one of our sports writers. So, Derek, take it away.
Well, guys, week 4 was pretty much like every other week this year. Some things turned out the way we thought they would, and there were some surprises. John, for week 4, the week 4 recap, what stuck out most for you? What were their main storylines there?
Well, 2 games I'd like to talk about. One would be on one positive and one, I guess, negative. The negative side, Central Catholic laying a 33-7 win over Seneca Valley. I know that Ethan West, a fine running back for the Raiders, went out or tried to play, I guess couldn't play. You were down there, Derek, I guess dealing with some type of injury. But still, I'm a little disappointed that Seneca couldn't generate more offense once West wasn't playing. There was that game, and my other game would be just on obviously a positive note. North Catholic continuing to dominate, 66-8 win over Burrell. And the game that Joey Prentice put together, here's a Butler County guy, threw for 297 and 3 touchdowns, ran for 108, 3 more touchdowns. I don't know about you guys, but I don't see anyone really stopping North Catholic in the near future. They look to be a very dominant team.
Mike, how about you? What sticks out for you about week 4?
Well, North Catholic has a test this week against South Park, the team that beat them in the playoffs last year. I was at that game. North Catholic really should have won that game. They had some uncharacteristic drops in that game. They made some uncharacteristic mistakes. So I'm going to keep my eye on that game. But, yeah, John, you're right. Joey Prentice right now is in a league of his own, running, throwing. That offense is rolling. We were wondering how they're going to replace Zach Rocco. Well, now we know. Joey Prentice is going to replace him, place him very well. They have weapons all around them. Nick Mayer's having a great season. That defense is good. That's my takeaway from the week. It's just how dominant North Catholic has been.
I know North Catholic does have that game this Friday against South Park, and like you said, South Park won last year's playoff game. But I just think the way North Catholic's rolling right now, I really believe their first real test is probably not going to come till the playoffs. I just can't not only not pick against them right now, I can't even pick them to win just a close game. I think they're rolling, and I think they'll continue to do so at least until the playoffs. Another game I wanted to talk about was a game I was at Thursday night. Union AC Valley at Red Bank Valley. Both are single-A football teams, but you got Union AC is a combined program. They got 2 high schools contributing to that roster, and I counted 20 players at the start of the game right before the national anthem. They lined up, and I counted them. I went right down the line. 20 players, and Red Bank dressed at least, I'd say 35, close to 40 players. So Union AC is a very talented team, but numbers are still a concern for that program, even though they are, a combined program, 2 high schools contributing there. So we'll talk a little bit more about Union AC. They got a game against a Whitfield team, Southside. We'll talk about that later. But the discussion topic, I wanted to kind of switch gears. Instead of actually focusing on one of our area players or one of our area teams, we're all going to put our coach's cap on here. Hypothetical situation. It's week 3. Your team has a very tough game coming up, a game where you believe if your team does win, it's going to be tight throughout. It's going to be a 1-score game probably if your team does win. John, I'm going to give this question to you first.
Okay.
Your first 2 games, you can have your team go out and mercy roll the other team for the first 2 weeks. Obviously a weaker opponent, and you can just kind of manhandle them. Or you can have your team win their first 2 games but have to scratch and claw to do it, going up against really good competition in situations where your skilled players and your line have to come up in pressure situations, have to come up big, and they do. What scenario over the first 2 weeks do you believe gives your team the best chance to win that 3rd game against a really tough opponent?
Well, prior to my answering that question, I want to compliment Mike on that Buffalo Bills backdrop. It's pretty impressive. I can tell someone's excited about the Bills here so far. Huh? But anyway, Derek, back to your question. To me, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, I want my team to grow as a football team, and to me, And to me, my first two games leading into this so-called big third game, I mean, if my team's blowing out two opponents and my starters are out by the end of the third quarter, and I mean, my team's not gaining anything by doing that, by beating up on an out-man opponent, twice in a row. I want to scratch and claw. I want my team to enter this big game with a been there, done that type of frame of mind, and learn how to play in a tough, hard-nosed game. My first two games, if they were similar to this third game, that would benefit my teams. So I'm taking your latter option. I want the two tough games leading into it.
And I want to throw out there also, your team's winning those first two games, scratch and claw, a close game, you win at the end, but no injuries. There's no major injuries. Obviously, that's key too. Mike,
I read that. I read that on the agenda here, and that's obviously key. I mean, I want my team healthy, clearly. Yeah. When you put the no injuries clause in there, it was a no-brainer for me.
Mike, don't tell me you agree with John here.
I actually do. There is something to be said about cruising to wins and getting confidence, but I agree with John. You want to be tested going into a tough game. And, again, your stipulation that there's no injuries, so that's key. If I have to, go toe-to-toe and battle it out with two teams and have significant injuries going into that third game, then maybe I rather would have a couple cupcakes the first 2 weeks. But if I get through those two games unscathed, I want to see my players under fire. I want them to get confidence under fire. I want them to experience everything. You learn a lot more from adversity. You learn a lot more from being tested than you do from winning 66-6. So, I agree with John. I'd rather have my guys playing 4 quarters in a competitive game, coming out on top, getting that confidence that, hey, we can win tough games, we can win close games, than I would winning 56-0 or 66-3 or something like that. So I agree with John. I want my guys battle tested going into a big game. Like I assume this week 3 game is like, everyone had it circled on their calendar. This is the big rivalry game. This is the game that might decide the section or the league or the region. So I want my guys tested. I want them under fire this first 2 weeks, and I want them healthy. So the fact that you said they're going to be healthy coming out of that, but of course you can't guarantee if you're going to be healthy coming out of two games in the season. Right. So so there is 2 ways to look at that. If injuries were in play, then maybe one of those I like to be tested. Maybe one I rather get my guys out of there at halftime. But with no injuries, I'd rather have my guys playing 4 quarters and challenged.
I'm going to agree with you guys to a point, but I'd like to play devil's advocate. So I'm going to say this. For me, this answer comes down to what type of team I have. If I have a team that's senior laden or a lot of players that you would consider to be so-called leaders, they've been through a lot of battles before, maybe the previous year. I'm sure a team like that's won close games in the past. If that's the case, if that's the type of team I have, I'm actually going to take those 2 mercy rule games leading into that tough game, because they know what it's about. They know what tough games are about. And on the other hand, if I have a young team, a lot of inexperienced kids, and this is going to be basically their, this is a chance for them to kind of, beat the backyard rival in a close game. I actually want that young team to be involved in tight games the first 2 weeks, because I don't want them to get to the fourth quarter in a tight game and say, wait a minute, this is the first time we've had to play 4 quarters all year. Sometimes, we're talking about high school kids here. Sometimes they react adversely to that. So a veteran team, I'll take the 2 cupcakes. A young team with not much experience, I'll actually take of course, like you said, no injuries. I'm going to take those tough games for a inexperienced team.
Yeah, that's a good point, Derek. Yeah.
I was gonna say your butt must be getting pretty sore from sitting on that fence there, because that's what's going on here. Now, to me, last year's last year. This year, every year's a new year. I mean, I don't want a big game to be my team's first close game. I just don't want that.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go into something that maybe we'll agree on here, a little bit more than the discussion topic. We're gonna go to our over/under, and of course, we do have a backyard rival this week, rivalry game this week. Mars visiting Knock. Obviously, Stalking the Planets is heading up. They've only lost once all year. Knock has struggled. They haven't won at all. They lost at Indiana last week, I believe 29-6. So they really weren't in that game either. But both of these teams love to run the football. Mars with Ruffner, and, of course, Knock has that triple option. They both love to run the football. Mike, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Both teams combined, Planets and Knights, over or under 90.5 passing yards for this game for both teams.
Well, this depends. John, do you know if Knox quarterback is going to play this week? He was taken off the field on a stretcher last week.
Yeah, I do not know. Frankly, I'd be surprised if he's. I'd be surprised if he's playing. I'm gonna give my answer with the assumption that he's not playing.
Yeah,
but I don't know. How do
you pronounce his last name? I always struggle with that.
Sabalski.
If he's playing, I go over because he's already thrown for 90-plus yards in every game this year. He's a little bit more of a passer. If they go with Keith Washington, who's a running back at quarterback, I don't know how much they're going to throw. They might have to throw because they're going to be down. So I'm going to go a little bit over. I think between Quinn Fuller and whoever Knock has at quarterback, they're both going to combine to go over 90.5 yards. They might not be by a lot, but I think they're going to go over.
John, what say you?
I'm going to go over also, but for a different reason. I've seen Knock play a couple of times, and Knock can. I'm not saying they can stuff the run, but they can be effective playing the run. But Knock's pass defense has really struggled. I mean, the two games that I saw them play, against Highlands and Armstrong, they got passed all over the place, and I. Knowing Scott Heinauer, and I know he may see this game as a chance to work on a passing game a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he does that. Quinn Fuller, I think Quinn Fuller may throw for over 100 yards for the first time in this game. Mars, they're going to get their running game going too, but I think Coach Heinauer is going to want to throw the ball. So I think Mars is going to pull a bit of a surprise in how much they put it up against the Knock defense.
Well, it's pretty boring when we all agree, but I'm going to have to agree with you guys. I think we all know – we've talked many times on this show about what Teddy Ruffner brings to the table. We know what he's about. I'm sure he's going to have a big game. I really believe if Mars makes the playoffs, and I believe they will, how far they go very well may come down to how well their quarterback Quinn Fuller plays. And I think Scott Heinauer and his staff are going to see this game as an opportunity to kind of get him a little bit of confidence moving forward. They still have a few more games till the playoffs, but I definitely think this is a game where they can take a few shots downfield. And from Knox's perspective, I could definitely see this game being a 2-3 score game in the second half, at which point they might have to throw the ball to try to get back in the game. So I see both these quarterbacks combining for over 90.5 yards. Maybe I should have upped it a little bit. Maybe I should have been like 125 or something. It's just too easy. I don't like it when we all agree. But anyway, we all agree here. We'll see how it turns out. John, who's covering?
Let's make a prediction.
What's that?
Who's covering this game Friday?
That would be me. I'm on Mars Knock.
Oh, just fudge the numbers.
Let's make a prediction. How many combined yards? Let's just pick a number and see how close we get for next week. I'm going to say 132 yards combined passing.
I'm going to go with 150.
I'll go 115.
Okay.
Jot those down there. See how close we are. Jot them down.
We won't play Price's Right rules where you have to be under. So whoever's closest, even if John's over,
it doesn't matter. You can be over or under. Whoever's closest to the actual number.
All right. So on to this week's picks. First, I'm going to recap how we all did last week. Mike, you and I both went 7-2 last week.
Oh, really? I thought I did worse than that.
We both won 7-2.
Or I should say I thought Emma did worse than that. Emma made her predictions last week.
She did pretty well for you.
I should bring her back.
And John, you and Scoop both went 6-3.
So
now,
Scoop's entering the twos, man.
Entering week 5, John and I are both 26-11. Mike is 25-12, and Scoop is behind all of us. That's really bad.
That's really bad.
Scoop's 24-13. So he needs to pick it up. He needs to have a perfect week is what he needs. We'll see if he gets it this week, John. First of all, want to throw this out real quick. Number one, John, you confirmed this with me earlier today. You told me Freeport's not playing this week, and Butler's definitely not playing this week. So
those are two games that are definitely off. I talked to John Gallup the morning of this taping. He said their game at East Allegheny is definitely off. And I talked to Bill Milan, Butler AD, just before coming on the program. They could not find an opponent, so Butler has a bye week this week.
Okay, so our first game on the docket on the list here is Seneca Valley. I don't know yet the status of Ethan West. I'm going to talk to Ron Butchley later tonight. But, John, you alluded to this earlier. Even without Ethan West, their offense I would have expected it to put – they had 22 yards at halftime last week. And I know Ron Butchley was definitely disappointed in that effort, even without a healthy West. They travel to Cannon Macmillan this week on Friday. John, do they avoid a second straight loss here?
Well, these are a pair of 2-1 football teams, and Cannon Mac, at least by their scores, anyway, I'm not going to lie. I don't know much about their roster, but their scores, they beat Mount Lebanon by, I think, 24-17. They blew out Hempfield, as did Seneca Valley. I see this game being a dogfight, but I'm going to pick Seneca, but in a very close game, 21-17.
Mike, do you agree with John here?
This one's hard because, again, Ethan West makes such a big difference for Seneca Valley. If he's out, then, this game's going to be nip and tuck the whole way. If he's in, I think Seneca has a pretty good chance of winning this. But I'm still going to go with Seneca Valley, the tight game, 21-14.
Here's another one where we all agree. I think the difference this week is, first of all, this is just my opinion. I don't think Ethan West is going to play. I was right on the field after the game last week, walking right with him, and he was limping pretty bad. He has a leg injury. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong there, but I'm going to assume that he's not going to play this week. I think the difference in this game is going to be Seneca Valley's defense. They actually played fairly well last week for most of the game against Central. They just had no offense to back them up. So I think this week they're going up against a Cannon Mac team that doesn't have quite the firepower that Central Catholic has, and I think Seneca Valley's defense will be the biggest variable in this game. I see the Raiders coming away with a tight 20-13 win. All right, the backyard rivalry, Mars at Knock. Mars only one loss on the season. Knock hasn't won yet. Mike, do the Knights get a win against the Planets here, which would be a pretty big upset, obviously?
Well, Knock's kind of been the house of horrors for Mars over the years. It seems like Mars goes in there, doesn't play well. Knock rises to the occasion and pulls off upset after upset at Knock, but not this year. Knock's too injury riddled. Mars is, I think they kind of figure things out a little bit after that Plum loss. Teddy Ruffner was going to run rough shot. They got Max Chismar going last week. They got some weapons, and I do think Quinn Fuller's going to throw a little bit more. So I think Mars is going to roll in this one, 35-7.
John, are you picking a close game, blowout, and which team?
Well, this is kind of scary, but I'm actually Mike and I are not only duplicating wins, but duplicating final scores. I have
no way, really?
Down also, yep. And not just a brutal week last weekend. I thought they had a shot at the Indiana. They lose their quarterback. Their offense still struggling to score points. They're still making mistakes. Mars knows they can't afford to lose again after losing a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, they're in playoff mode.
They're going to be fired up. The only thing that could help Knock is, and I don't know what the forecast is, if it's a rainy Friday on that grass field, that could equalize things a little bit. But if it's not, like I said, I see Mars rolling 35.
66 and sunny, John.
Okay,
the rain gods aren't going to show up for Knock.
Weather's not going to help them. No.
I'm picking a very similar score here, not quite exactly the same, but 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, the last time these two teams met, Mars was the heavy favorite. They played at Knock.
Knock won. I was at that game. Yeah.
Knock won, and it actually cost Mars. They still made the playoffs, but it cost them a much better seed. As it turned out, they got a lower seed. They went down to Bell Vernon, first round of the playoffs, and got crushed.
It cost them a home game, actually.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
That doesn't happen this time. I like Mars to win this game 34-14. So we're all on the same page there. Mars by 3 scores. Mike, I'm going to turn to you first one on this one because you covered last year's playoff game between South Park and North Catholic. Does North Catholic exact a bit of revenge on the Eagles?
Yeah, big time. Even after that game, you can see it in the faces of the North Catholic players and Coach O'Shea that they knew they let one slip away. They knew they were the better team that night than South Park, but they lost. I think North Catholic might actually be better this year. So I think North Catholic's going to roll in this one. I think they're going to exact some serious revenge. Joey Prentice, Nick Mayer, all those guys are going to have big nights. I see North Catholic winning 42-20.
All right, John, do you see any chance that North Catholic picks up their first loss this Friday?
Well, Derek, as you always say, there's always a chance, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
I do. I should have a T-shirt made up that says that. Yeah.
There's always a chance.
South Park took one on the chin last week against a very strong Elizabeth Forward team, 35-0. They got shut out. Now, Elizabeth Forward has only given up, I think, 12 points the entire year so far, so there's something to be said for that. But this is, I agree with Mike here, though. I think this is a statement win for North Catholic. East Allegheny had a strong team. They beat them by 3 touchdowns. I see them doing the exact same thing this week. Games at Morris High School, I pick North Catholic 35-14.
Okay, I don't see, as I said before, I don't see North Catholic. I mean, they might just roll through the entire regular season with lopsided wins. I think the Trojans win this game. They stay perfect, 36-17, and I don't even think it's going to be that close. Could have a situation where South Park has a late touchdown, cosmetic touchdown. But I got the Trojans winning by 19. So we all agree that the Trojans are going to stay perfect here. Another big game, very big game, Carson City. 2 weeks ago, they got embarrassed up at Brookville. This past week, they got the Punxsutawney, and they embarrassed the Chucks 49-0. Now they got a Central Clarion team coming in. Central Clarion's, pretty good. There's another school. That football team has players on it from 3 different high schools.
They do.
So anyway, Central Clarion's always going to be a tough opponent, but they're coming to Carson City, to Deal Stadium. John, do you see the momentum that Carson City picked up last week continuing this Friday?
I'll tell you what, this game every year, whether it's Clarion or Central Clarion or Clarion mixed bag, whatever you want to call them, Clarion and Carson City is always a hard game to predict because it goes in so many different directions from year to year. But I think Carson City, it's a huge game for them. As you mentioned, Eric, they're playing at home. Central Clarion struggled. They beat Dubois last week, but they had a hard time doing it, 15-7. I picked Carson City, but in a very competitive football game, 28-20, Carson City.
Mike, Gremlins or no?
This is hard. I don't know what to make of this game because both teams have kind of been doing that Jekyll and Hyde, acts. Carson City looks great against Dubois. Then they go lay an egg against Brookville. Then they come back and pound Punxsy. Central Clarion, 15 points against Dubois. I saw Carson City just rip through them up and down the field all night. I was shocked by that score. They only scored 15 points, especially with their with the weapons they have there. So that was a head scratcher. So that really makes this one hard because what teams are going to show up? Now, if the best Carson City team shows up against maybe a struggling Central Clarion team, then it's going to be a blowout in Carson City or vice versa. But I think it's going to be a close game like John said. I think Carson City finds a way to win if they can shore up that pass defense because we know Central Clarion can throw the ball. And Carson City struggled against that, but maybe they made some adjustments. I think they probably did. Maybe they can slow that down a little bit. I think they win a kind of a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 34-30, Carson City.
We talked a little bit about this last week. I covered that Carson City game in Brookville a couple weeks ago, and in that game, that was a shot to Carson City's pride. I mean, they didn't just lose.
Yeah.
They got dominated pretty much in every aspect of the game. Now, last week they played a down Punxsy team. Nobody is surprised that they won that game 49-0. It was a shutout. I think this week they get to kind of prove their worth in a tight game. I think it's going to be very tight, but I like Carson City. They're playing at home. I like them to win a 2-point game. I got them winning 26-24. All right, another District 9 large division battle. We got Monotone going to Dubois. Monotone, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, they've won just once this year. Is that correct?
Yep.
1-3.
Do they pick up their second win against the Beavers this week?
I think they do. They played Central Clarion pretty tough, even though the final score that doesn't really show it last week. From all reports, they went head-to-head with Central Clarion pretty well. And Dubois, like I said earlier, just a minute ago, I saw Carson City go up and down the field on them running the ball. Monotone obviously can run the ball quite well with their three-headed monster attack with Mershimer, Desicino, and Stam at quarterback. I think Monotone controls the ball. They grind out a win here. It's going to be low scoring because Monotone is going to just grind it out all night, and I don't think Dubois can match that. So I think Carson City. I think Monotone wins. I'm going to say 20-6.
Wow. John, you see it being that low scoring?
I see it being low scoring, and I see it being an extremely tight game. I think Monotone's defense keeps this game close. I was impressed by Dubois last week, how close they were to Central Clarion. And I'm picking Dubois strictly by the home field. I pick them to win an extremely tight game, 14-13, Dubois.
Wow. This is a game that I may be at, and of course, John knows where I'd love to be on Friday night. But
yeah, still trying to work out the schedule here.
Still trying to work it out. I think this is going to be a tight game. I just Dubois, and I know against a lot of teams, it doesn't matter for Dubois. They got more players. I mean, the enrollment at that school is much larger than the teams they're playing. But they've struggled this year, at least as far as wins and losses go. They did put up a very good fight against the Central Clarion team last week. I think playing at home this week, I think they find a way to win. Not necessarily low-scoring game. I don't think it's going to be a shootout either, though. I got the Beavers winning 23-18. I think it's going to be a good game, though, John. And believe me, if I go up there and cover it, I'll do my best to give you a good story.
I know. You're trying to sell it. Okay.
This next game is one of the most intriguing games on our schedule, not just this week, but all year for us, because it's a very talented, although they have low numbers, Union AC Valley team playing a Whitfield school. And I'm very interested to see how they fare against a school from the Whitfield. Union AC Valley was originally supposed to play Sheffield this week. We talked about this. Sheffield canned the rest of their season after they lost in week 1 to Keystone 86-0. They only had like 16, 17 players left. Union AC Valley going down to the bowels of Beaver County, if they can find the place, and playing Southside. John, do you see Union AC winning this inter-district battle?
Actually, I'm going with the upset here. I think Southside Beavers 1-3, but it's a very misleading 1-3. I did some research on them. Teams that they've lost to are 8-3 combined. They've also lost close games, all of them. Well, the 2 of the 3 anyway. They lost close games, including a 23-15 decision, unbeaten Stowe Rocks last week. Union AC Valley, tough loss to bounce back from at Red Bank last week. I expect this to be a very close game, but I'm going with Southside Beaver to win at home, 21-14.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm going with Southside. I'm going with Southside too, because I think, like John said, they're 1-3, but it's not a typical 1-3. Union AC Valley is going to have. I think they're going to struggle against Southside. I think Southside wins. I'm going to go 24-12.
Wait a minute, you were driving a Union AC Valley bus. That bus is going to wreck now. You're getting off.
No, Scoop was driving it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Scoop jumped off.
Okay.
Scoop. We shouldn't trust anything Scoop says right now.
John, just to expand on one thing you mentioned about Southside, you said
yes.
they've played some close games. Their 3 losses have come by a combined 17 points. So they have not been blown out this year. As I said before,
they play quality teams too against quality opponents.
That's true. And I alluded to it at the start of the show. Union AC's got some really good athletes. They really do. But they're dressing 20 players 3 weeks into the season. This is last week at Red Bank Valley. I just don't think they're going to have the manpower to win this game. They might. I'm sure Merwin's going to make some plays for them at quarterback. Caden Rainey's a great receiver. But I just don't think they're going to have the numbers to stay with Southside in this game, and I got the Rams winning 27-14. All right, our last game on the schedule this week, like Mars Knock, another backyard rivalry. We're going to start off with this one with Mike, because he is obviously close to the Slippery Rock football program. They're hosting Grove City this week. Mike, do the Rockets get back on track against the Eagles?
I watched their game virtually and covered it. It was first for me. I covered a game virtually from the office. They were streaming it on YouTube, and it worked out pretty good actually. But what I drew from that game was Slippery Rock's taking steps backwards here this year. Their week 1 win over Sharon 27-7 was impressive. Sharon, to be honest, they had their way with Slippery Rock up front. They were getting pushed around. I know Coach Renderoos is not happy about that. Grove City lost again to Hickory, but I think Grove City is just a better team right now, even at Slippery Rock. I think Grove City wins. I'm going to say 31-28. I think it's going to be a close game.
John?
I see a close game also, but I'm going the other way. I think Slippery Rock gets revenge finally against Grove City. I know Grove City's dominated this series in recent years, but I see Slippery Rock bouncing back. I know they can't be happy with the way they played against Sharon last week. I see them bouncing back, especially at home, getting revenge. I'm going with Slippery Rock 27-21.
Okay, I'm going to have to agree with Mike on this one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a good game. But I think, as Mike said, I think Grove City's just a better football team at this point in the season. And I got the Eagles winning this one 25-17. 16. You guys ready for the how about?
Yep, we need to pick it up though. So go ahead.
Okay. I was going to bring this up a few weeks ago when I got cut off by the internet, so we're going to do it now. Seneca Valley freshman golfer Lahini Ranawira shot a 35 this year. That's a school record for their home course, Conquenessing. She also led the Raiders to the team playoffs for the first time in program history, and she's golfing in the Whitfield individual finals later this week on Thursday. John, you've seen stuff in the roundup about this girl. I did a feature story on her. Yep. What are your thoughts on the way she's kind of burst onto the Whitfield golf scene here?
Well, for a freshman, it's awfully impressive what she's been doing. She kind of reminds me about Butler's Paige Scott a couple of years ago, the way she broke on to the scene at Butler, and Paige Scott, not to steal Lahini's thunder here at all, but she just won a huge huge junior tournament Sunday at Westmoreland Country Club. Now these two girls are both going to be going at it in both the team championships for the Whitfield, which are taking place Monday of this week, as well as Thursday at the championships for individuals. But Lahini to do what she's done as a freshman is extremely impressive.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've been seeing some really, really talented athletes coming through here, especially in golf. Every year you see these scores go lower and lower and lower. She's only a freshman, so you know she's going to get better as she gets more experience, gets to know some of the courses that she's going to be playing, especially out east in the championships. I think she can do some great things in her career. Like I said, I golfed in high school, and 35 was a pipe dream for me, even as a senior, let alone as a freshman to shoot that and shoot in the 30s like she has. So kudos to her. It's exciting to watch these young athletes excel at such a young age, and her future seems very, very bright.
Kevin Wildrick, Seneca Valley's girls golf coach, said that Lahini's drives are normally between 20 and 30 yards shorter than most of her competitors, but she has such a strong short game. So she's only a freshman, so as she gets bigger, gets a little bit more strength.
Yeah, she gets stronger.
And those drives become longer. Watch out. And I did want to throw this out there. There's no Western Regional at Tom's Run this year. That's
there's not.
Canceled. So you have to qualify for states right at Whitfields, but I would not put it past this girl. She's had a great season. I look forward to continue. I think her season will end as far as it can go, which is the state tournament. And good luck to Lahini this week and beyond. She's had a great season so far. So that wraps it up for our preview of Week 5 football. And we'll recap it next week and talk about Week 6. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.